the knowledge area number 11.1, area known as risk management. If we follow that particular area number 1, area 11.1, we are going to be getting the risks which are identifiable for the projects in a certain ways. Now, there are two things. Number one is going to be called as the risks that arise because of you. Who are you? Company. And the risks that arise because of environment. What is environment? It's going to be true for everyone. Now here is where the Sonali's question comes into the picture. The environmental risks are common to all the companies. Environmental risks are common to all the companies, while the risks associated with you are not so common from company to company, and therefore the total risk portfolio that you have may depend upon a combination of the environmental risks and the risks which are inherent risks because of you. So let's have a very simple understanding of the left-hand side first. And that particular left-hand side is, what do you think are the top risks arising out of your own company? The first of that is going to be called as definition of the scope. What's the scope definition? Knowing exactly what is going to be the part of your delivery in that project. I explained you aeroelastic study, but did I tell you everything? Did I tell you the nitty-gritty, small things? What if a small part of that has been missed out in the scope statement, and I as a client insist that you are supposed to be doing that and you are vague about it? In other words, the vagueness of the scope is a massive risk that can come from internal resources that you have got. Well, what's the solution for that? You must have the people, those who have done similar projects in the past. You can use a method which is known as Delphi Method. If you are aware of it, great. If you are not, I will take examples of this. If you have taken the projects of this sort in the past, you must know what are the difficulties internally of the scope has come out of it. By the way, let me take a small example of the company where I was working earlier. It's a story, but it's a story in a typical, problematic situation. The story was like this. I was working my last job before I started my own consultancy. My last job was with a company called as UST Global. That time it was known as US Technology. And I was looking after the learning and development of the resources. We had majority of the clients which were coming from Fortune 500 list, and chairman of the company, who was in the US, has given us a target to the business development, and the target was, we must get all the Fortune 50 companies, all the top 50 companies in the world must be our clients. Our BD, business development, tried a lot. They got some of them, but one client called as Costco, I am sure can have a look at it, because a great interesting technology has emerged out of that. A company which is called as Costco, a huge company based out of Seattle. Costco was not relenting, was not giving us any job. Therefore, our head of BD, business development, a person called Joe Nalkara, writes to the chief technology officer of Costco saying that, please give me an appointment, please give a meeting, I would like to meet you. Somehow he gets appointment, he meets that particular person, and while meeting the person, he realizes Costco has got around getting people on a technology known as Juxta. Technology called as Juxta. Joe Nalkara realizes that he has got iron hot, he has got steel hot, he has to hit upon that. And Joe Nalkara promises the CTO of the company, Don Burdick, a very prominent CTO, CIO, saying that, Mr. Don, I will get you trained resources, trained people on Juxta, without knowing what juxta is. Don Burdick suitably was impressed, gives a contract. The contract was signed, and the people in project, those who are supposed to deliver, had no idea what juxta was. And if you look at it, your own internal people sometimes can have a scope definition which could be wrong. That could be a major element of risk. Internal. External will come to that shortly. What's the second one? Your estimations of the time for the activities could be completely wrong. Why it could be completely wrong? Not because you have made a mistake. You may not have considered a lot of other things which need to be considered to ensure that particular job gets done. By the way, you are estimating the duration of that particular project before even a single brick has been laid out. And there is a possibility that your estimations could not be adhered to because of variety of environment related stuff as well. So the time estimations are problematic ones. Your cost estimations are not necessarily always perfect. In fact, there can be environmental factor over there called as economic impact that can come in over there, which is called as exchange rate fluctuations, or demand pattern can change, or maybe coronavirus. Who had thought about this particular risk? Pandemic was not a risk many companies are taken up. I don't know whether you are aware of this or not, but look at two of these particular sports related issues. Tokyo Olympics was supposed to have taken place in June. Tokyo Olympics was planned at least 4 years back. At least 4 years back it was planned. They never thought that there will be pandemic happening and the Olympics may get cancelled. By the way, cancellation of Olympics is going to be a massive, massive loss to the International Olympic Organization. It's going to be a massive problem. But well, they never planned for that. On the contrary, I'm sure you are aware of another sporting event, an event which is called as Wimbledon. Wimbledon has got insurance taken up against epidemics or against the kind of coronavirus like pandemic that comes in over there. By the way, Wimbledon will not take place, but there will be no financial loss to the Wimbledon club because they have ensured, they have transferred the risk of the pandemic like situation at a cost. So therefore, if you look at it, the cost elements can also be into problem, could be in trouble. So we shall keep that over there and we'll combine them together with environmental in next 2 minutes. Next is communication related issues may come up. What is communication related issues? Hey, in a typical project environment, you have got 4 people, 4 types of people. I'm sure known as RASI. The people who are responsible for doing certain jobs. People who are authorized to take those particular jobs. People who need to be consulted to get that particular job done. And people who need to be informed about that particular job. If there is a communication mismatch between these people, there could be a massive problem, massive risk that can come internally over here. And the last one, 6th one, is called as enterprise process asset. What's the process asset? The way the enterprise is geared up. Do they have enough people? Do they have enough cash management systems? Do they have capital reserves? Do they manage their projections well? In other words, how well the enterprise is geared up. So we will talk about all these particular things as the internal issues which can get together. So let's wipe our board over here. Let's make these particular things clean over here. And let's talk about now a simple question. And that particular question is, what are the top risks that can come in over here because of environment? Now to get these particular top risks in the environment, again, we must depend upon the framework. And let's use this particular framework, which is called as STEEP framework. Let's use this particular framework, which is known as STEEP framework. One of the important elements why your projects could be in risk is because of social. Let's put it over here as social factors. The factors that society in general, the stakeholders in that particular society may or may not be agreeable to. Land acquisition, political interference that may come because of the land availability of the space, and etc. So we will call that particular one over here as social. Number two, the technologies that you use are not necessarily proven. There could be a problem associated with technology. For example, I did not plan for this, that Zoom session for our interaction will be only for 40 minutes. Now, why is it only for 40 minutes? I never planned for that. But I'm sure if I had thought about these particular things in a really good perspective, I should have considered the technological impact or technological aspects in or there. So we shall consider that as technological aspect. Number three over here is going to be called as economic. Now, the economic aspects are those aspects which you can't control, and I'm sure there are two of them. Number one is called as macroeconomic aspects, and second one, which are related to companies as such, which are micro. So economic aspect, the micro and macro, which can actually play a havoc when it comes to the situations like present day situation like pandemic or etc. Economic uncertainties can create a lot of problems. Environmental issues can bring in a lot of challenges as well. Setting up a plant near to the river, there could be an environmental element which can be the risk. That means there could be the discharge of the waste from the factory into the river, and the river may get polluted. Because of that, certain things may happen, because of which there could be some kind of a financial risk arising out of that. So there could be the environmental elements out there. And the last one, I'm sure you must have guessed it by now, are the political issues. Changes of the government has killed, by the way, changes in the government in one of the states in India closed, made one company in the US go bankrupt. Well, I would have been very happy to ask these quiz questions. Tell me that company in the US which closed down because government in one of the states in India changed. The government which changed was the government of what is called as Maharashtra state government changed, and one company in the US closed down. The company is known as Enron. So the Enron, which had a presence in Maharashtra called as Dabhol power plant, the Enron, because of the change in government and the new government not sustaining that, created a problem. I'm sure you have heard about POSCO, the POSCO problem in Orissa, or Tata Nano problem in Singur, are all the issues where the projects are susceptible to the political interference, political forces that can play around over there as well. Now, these are the top level forces, and definitely derivatives of them which come down at a local level, which come down in a smaller level, are the top elements that one should be taking care of. By the way, is that the standard framework? No, it's not the standard framework. But if you are looking at companies like L&T, Larsen & Toubro, the basic framework of the environmental assessment by L&T is done with the help of STEEP framework. But within STEEP, they have got RBS, and the RBS stands for risk breakdown structure. So the societal or the society related risks are further divided into the local society, the national society, the human society as such. So it is divided further into those particular levels. Technology is further divided in these particular levels as well. But generally, a framework of this nature is the one which people sit together to identify the risks with the methods which are typically known as Delphi method. So very briefly, I'm going to tell you the example of a Delphi method. Delphi method's output is a question that was asked by another girl, and that particular question is this, that output of the Delphi method is what? The output of the Delphi method, let me wipe these particular things off so that there is a space over here for me
Sir,
to write
sorry
it.
to interrupt. There are few more questions coming up. There are around
Okay,
6 questions which are in line. So I'll just
okay, tell me.
send you on WhatsApp, sir.
You want to do that? Okay,
Okay, so I have sent the first
fine.
question.
So once we have a second break, I will take it up. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
okay, fine. Now, once the risks are identified, or by the way, how the risks are identified? Risks are identified by a variety of methods. One of the popular methods that most of the major companies do is a method which is called as Delphi method. What's the Delphi method? I'm sure you must have discussed Delphi method differently in different aspects as well, but Delphi method is those who are knowledgeable in that particular field actually undertake a brainstorming session, and they take every possible risk that they might have come across in past. By the way, what type of risks? Remember, risks are always divided in two parts. First part of the risk is known as the uncertain, and other one is known as certain uncertain. Let me elaborate. What's a certain uncertain? Let's look at a simple risk for here. Earthquake. Is it uncertain? Yes. But is it for sure earthquake will happen? Earthquake will happen even today, or may happen maybe 100 years from now, may happen 1,000 years from now. But there is a certainty. Earth is a dynamic system, and there is no space, there is no place on earth which is free of earthquake. There is a certainty about earthquakes, but when will that earthquake happen? You don't know about it. Volcano eruption. Volcano, you never know the timetable of volcano eruption. If you know that, there is no uncertainty in that at all. You can always play your cards well. But volcanoes may erupt at any point of time. Tsunami may come at any point of time. You do not know when that will happen, but you know for a fact it will happen. There is no second question about it. Delphi method is for certain uncertainties. Uncertainties which you do not know, and therefore two elements of this particular one. What is the chance that it will happen in our time horizon? And what is the impact if it happens in our time horizon? So the job of qualitative risk management, qualitative risk assessment is to understand the chance of it happening and the impact of that particular one happening. You have to judge the impact and the chance. How is it done? It can be done with the help of some of the quantitative tools as well. So 2 minutes, we shall come, maybe 10 minutes, and we shall come to that. By the way, what about number one? Uncertain. That means you do not even know that this uncertainty exists. Let me take a little hilarious example. People normally take insurance against their life. Why do they take the insurance? Why do they take the insurance? Well, if something goes wrong, if something happens to their life, maybe accident or whatever, if there are no more, in that case, a provision should be made to the people, those who are dependent, etc., etc., etc. So, suppose there is a person X. Imagine there is a person X, and this particular person has taken life insurance policy, and this person is dead. But dead how? The person is dead because alien from Jupiter came and abducted that particular person. Will this person be getting insurance claim? Actually, no. Insurance claim is always for certain uncertainties. They are never for uncertain uncertainties. So, alien invasion, asteroid hitting planet, suddenly sun getting absorbed by the galactic, what do you say, black holes and etc. Now, these are all the things, but these are all the things that all the humans are going to suffer because of that. And we are not the only privileged who are going to suffer, or we are not only underprivileged who are not going to suffer because of that. So in the risk management, in the Delphi, certain uncertainties are discussed with the steep parameters to understand how is it possible, when is it possible, and there is no fixed rule for that, that this will happen or that will not happen. Your people, those who are the risk assessment people, have to ensure that every possible eventuality, every possible uncertainty has been taken care of, and ultimately you plot it in what is called as a risk matrix, a 5x5 risk matrix, and that particular risk matrix on one axis you have got chances or the likelihood of happening, on other axis you have got impact of happening, and you have got over here the area which is known as the high potential risks that you want to mitigate, and this comes under what is called as qualitative risk assessment. You are trying to figure it out from the historical past data, the possibilities of them. By the way, what do you do after that? Let's take one step further and let's come back to our main topic, which is going to be the quantitative over here, because in the qualitative also you use quantitative techniques. So let me go one step further over here, and that particular one step further is, let's change the slide, let's take one step further, and that particular step further is, how are your risk responses? Once you have got your risks, what are the different ways in which you plan for the risk responses? There are four. Universally, there are known to be 4 risk responses, and those responses, you prepare a mitigation plan for them, and that is your plan for the risks. Let's start with simplest possible one, and that particular one is known as acceptance. What's acceptance? Simple. If the risk is likely to happen, and we have got no other way of avoiding, we take it up with our eyes open. We know what can go wrong, and typically this is done with scenario building. You build the scenarios, worst comes to worst, what may happen. Best thing to happen, the risk does not take place. So you build over here the different situations, different possibilities, and you say that since we have got no other go, since we have got no other alternative, we will accept the risk. But while accepting the risk, we know where the things can go wrong, and if they go wrong, we have got necessary plans, mitigation plans for them. If it happens, then we will take care of this. If this happens, we will take care of this, so on and so forth. Let me take one example of acceptance of the risk. The example is coming from, I'm sure you're going to do that particular homework. The example is going to come from the acceptance of a risk by a company called as Airbus Industry in a place in France known as Toulon. The wing of the aircraft, I'm sure you are aware of the wing of the aircraft. The wing of the aircraft, the distance or the length of the wing is 85 meters. Span of the wing is 85 meters. And there was no company in continental Europe which could manufacture the wing of 85 meters span. Nobody had done that in the past. There was one company, and that particular company was located in the UK. The only company which was capable, even though they had not built, which was capable of building this particular wing of 85 meters span. They were capable of doing that, and there was no other company, either in Europe or in the US, which was capable of doing these particular things. So they were the chosen vendor for developing this particular wing. The problem with this particular vendor was, it was located in a remote part of the UK, and there was no road connectivity which will have this particular weight, or which will have this particular wingspan taken care of. Road connectivity was there, but wing, once it is constructed, but it's a monolith, it's one single wing. Once it is done, I'm sure you must have seen, if you're not, near Belgaum, there are lots of windmills. And the windmills have got what is called as turbine, the wingspan. And the wings are moved on the trucks. And those trucks are moving extremely slowly because you can't bend that particular wing. Now that wing is quite small. Compared to that, the span of this particular wing was very high, and the company, Airbus industry, decided in a very weird way. They said that we will take a risk, accept it, that we will not move on the road. There was a nearby canal, a nearby, you can say, a river-like water body. They will put that particular wing on the barges, 4 barges, and there were 3 bridges on the way. And the distance between the bridge, lowest part of the bridge, and the highest part of this particular wing, the distance was only 6 inches. If the water moves, 6 inches is nothing, it just touches, and the wing, which is millions of dollars, will get completely crumpled, will get completely destroyed. But well, they had no other alternative. They accepted the risk and worked out on the alternative plans. If this happens, in that case, project will get delayed by this, cost incurred will be so and so, we will do this particular one, we'll find out the best possible window to move that particular wing and etc. They did these particular things up. So acceptance of a risk is one of the risk planning, one of the risk responses that companies may have to take. Not many companies are happy with that, but well, that's one of the ways, because there are 4. We are talking about all 4 of them. Number 2 is ensure that you avoid that particular risk altogether by alternative methods. Avoid that and ensure that another company which can make this particular wing as well, which has got transportation possible, transportation capable, which has got ability to transform, ability to transport, etc., etc. So avoid that particular risk by suitable alternative contingency plans is a possibility which we can follow here as avoidance. For example, I think this is one of the clients, very nice example. This is Aditya Birla Group. Let me just draw a small picture over here. There was a hill like this. It was in Andhra Pradesh. And that part of Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka, which is the common shared border between that, you notice a lot of rocks are there, huge, massive rocks. There was a lot of rocks on this particular hill were naturally adjusted over there. And the company, one of the Aditya Birla groups, was establishing a plant down over here. Now, have these rocks moved any time in their life? For several centuries, these rocks have been there as they are. Are they overhanging? Yes, they are overhanging. That means, are they going to fall? One day they are going to fall. But they have never fallen for so many centuries. Well, the company is extremely less risk appetite. The Aditya Birla Group does not have risk appetite. They don't take risks. Reliance, on the contrary, does take a lot of risks. Aditya Birla does not take risks. And what they did, if there is a risk of this particular whole bunch of this particular rocks coming down, and massive, each rock is hundreds of tons of material. So rather than taking this particular risk, which is remote risk to happen in this particular situation, but rather than taking that particular risk, they decided not to use that particular area, and they chose another location where there was no risk of this particular sort. By the way, another location had another risk which they were able to mitigate. They were able to take care of that as well. So that is going to be called as the avoidance. What's the mitigation? You spend your time, money, and energy, create a plan to get the impact of that happening down. For example, how could the mitigation done over here? You could have done the reinforcement to these particular rocks to ensure that they do not slide down. If you are traveled on Konkan Railway, you might have noticed that Konkan Railway is very susceptible to the falling of the rocks. And to have that particular rock coming down on the tracks, they have done what is called as structural erections in such a way that these particular rocks are prevented from coming down. It is expensive, extremely expensive, particularly viaduct near the Goa are very expensive. But well, in case if you want to go ahead with to ensure that such risk will not happen, you want to really take care of this particular risk, we shall call them as mitigation. Last one is transference. Transfer the risks. Now, what's the transferring of a risk? Transferring of risk is this: make sure that you have an insurance company who is willing to take that particular risk at a premium. How does insurance company work? How does insurance company work? Insurance company evaluates the risks, identifies how much is going to be the financial premium, which will take care of these particular risks and all those particular paraphernalia of that. They will ensure how much is going to be the involvement of their part towards the financial compensation. They ensure, of course, there is a profitability for them as well. But insurance companies are the ones which are willing to have the risks accepted at a premium. To you, it's a simple risk. If it happens, and if there is a negative impact of that particular risk on you, financial or otherwise, in that case, there is an adequate compensation which allows you to get out of that. So transferring of a risk is a possible response to the risk as well. Again, these are at higher level. At each level, they are going to be elaborated further in terms of the nitty-gritty, in terms of the micro way of planning them. But definitely, these are what is called as our basic background over here. So we are at this particular stage. Let me remove this particular whole thing over here. So the PMBOK framework says, look at your risks coming from internal. Look at your risks coming from environment, steep, pest, or any of these particular ones. Ensure that risks are identified. You are doing what is called as risk assessment over here, trying to find out the possibility of happening, impact of it happening, plan for the risk responses, and to do all these three things, you should jolly well use some of the very good tools, and three tools in particular. And those particular three tools, we are going to talk two of them. Three tools. One of them is called as decision trees. Second one is called as Monte Carlo simulation. And the third one, 1980 onwards, has become a very popular one known as AHP, Analytic Hierarchy Process. By the way, suggested three, there are plenty of other things as well, which we are not really referring to, but I'm sure we can bring in, or we can make sure that we are moving in that particular direction. So therefore, let's understand what these particular quantitative tools are, how they take care of the probabilities, how it's worked out, so that in the case where there is a complete darkness in a room, at least a torch is in our hand, so as to we can find out what may happen in certain situations. So we shall now proceed for the next 10 minutes with my explanation, and next half an hour with a practical hands-on, so as to make sure that we get these particular tools right. So let's take one step further, and that particular step further brings us to the quantitative risk management, and one of this particular beautiful method is known as the decision trees. But all said and done, this video conferencing and Zoom or all these particular things are perfectly great. But the face-to-face, any day, is going to be the ultimately the final. No, there is no better thing than face-to-face. Well, if I were to be with you, I would have asked you mind, and maybe you can send it in the chat as well. My question is this: if I look at my mobile phone, okay, if I look at my mobile phone, I have got a small app which is called as AccuWeather, and that particular weather, AccuWeather says there is a 10% chance of a rain in Pune today. I am right now in Pune, even though I am not from Pune. I stay in Manipal, but I am in Pune presently. It says there is a 10% chance of a rain.